How about them Irish?
I can't take it anymore. I need a national championship.
This is the Four Horsemen podcast.
We told you. We told you the Notre Dame Fighting Irish would go down to College Station and get the job done. Well, that's exactly what happened with a 23-13 win Saturday night. Welcome to the Four Horsemen podcast. I'm Dylan, joined by Steve, and we're going to get into it. Steve, how are you feeling? Because I can only imagine.
I'm exhausted. I'm very hungover. I feel like dog shit. But I am happy that I feel like dog shit because I partied into the night after seeing Notre Dame absolutely, I wouldn't say dominate. Well, they dominated on defense, but they went in hostile territory. They came out with a win. That was a very impressive performance. And I mean, man, oh man, am I thrilled.
Yeah, I went out partying too. Woke up early to watch Liverpool absolutely annihilate Manchester United. It's been a great weekend. The Irish with a huge win. I thought Marcus Freeman did a great job. We'll talk about areas for improvement. I think penalties being one, but they played their hearts out. And as the game got on, we got better, and A&M didn't. We were conditioned. We were more physical, and I think that's exactly what we've been lacking. I think any other year we probably lose this game. I think Brian Kelly loses this game. I think Marcus Freeman has got a new culture, a new mindset, and just got the program in a right spot where they can go down to the number one alleged environment to play in on primetime, game day, when everyone's picking the other team, and you still beat them. So we should be thrilled. There's definitely reasons for criticism with the game. We'll get into it, but overall, Notre Dame fans should be feeling absolutely fantastic about it. We may have punched our ticket to the playoff already. I mean, I don't want to overlook anybody, but that was a big first test. So, Steve, I'll ask you your thoughts on the game because I have kind of a monologue to get into. So, what did you view on Saturday, and how do you kind of assess what we watched?
I guess the first thing that comes off the top of my head when I rewatched the game earlier this morning with my morning coffee, and I guess, yeah, I had tweeted out from our podcast account last night. I think sometime in the second half, or even around halftime, like, guys, you got to chill out. Like, the sky is not falling, everything is fine. And I always kind of felt at ease. Like, of course, you're always nervous for big games, but it never felt like we were letting anything get away from us. It never felt like anything wasn't manageable. There were a couple of hash and dash runs here and there, but by and large, we kept everything ahead of us. We knew our defense was going to be phenomenal, and our offense was moving the ball and playing well. We just had a bunch of calls that a bunch of big chunk plays that ended up getting called back on some holding, and there was some false starts and whatnot, and that's all stuff that, one, with inexperience we can clean up with experience over the course of time, over the course of the season, that will get better. And two, given the environment, I mean, some of it is a little bit understandable. I'll give them a little bit of grace. But the offense kind of felt like it was inevitable that there were scoring drives out there. We could move the ball. I felt comfortable with Riley Leonard. He wasn't taking any stupid, unnecessary chances, and he did a great job of eluding pressure when it did come. If you had told me heading into the game on our last podcast that Notre Dame would run for 198 yards and average 5.8 yards per carry while giving up 0 sacks against that defensive front seven for Texas A&M, I would have laughed in your face and said, no way. Like, we're not going to average that many yards per carry, and we're certainly not going to not give up any sacks. But that's what ended up being the case. So it was impressive, but more so than anything, I think the as you said, the aura of Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman and his leadership as the game went on I was becoming less and less scared and more almost expecting to win. It felt different. It feels different. So I, it wasn't a 400-yard passing performance by Riley Leonard, but he was very impressive as a senior, leading this team, leading this offense. We're in a good spot, man. This was the toughest game I think on the schedule all season. We prevailed by 10 points. We're good. We are a phenomenal football team. This is a team in a great spot with a bright future ahead of it.
Well, you and I got the scores pretty close. I had it 27-13, which was 4 points off, and you had it 27-17. So it's funny that a lot of the ND media people, the traditional folks, had it a lot closer, and a lot of just media in general had Texas A&M winning. Yet it's the propaganda podcast that kind of gets the score pretty close. I kind of want to talk about our expectations of the game. So we talked last week, obviously, about the offensive line. And I had said that I think they'll struggle, but they'll be better than we expect. They'll do well enough to win the game. I think they did that. There were certainly some moments because A&M was kind of being confusing with the way they were rushing the passer, and we let a few of those go through and didn't do Riley Leonard any favors, especially in the first half. So I was, I have a hope for it to improve a little bit. We'll get to that, but I think we called that largely correct. I think we were expecting maybe a little more from the offense than what we actually got, but I feel like the defense may have been even better. And if you take away the penalties, right? Three of our points came in garbage time. So if you take away the penalties, our score lines are probably really close, because Notre Dame really hurt themselves in the foot, right? The Texas A&M, their touchdown was the defense on multiple penalties, moving them all the way to the goal line. And the Notre Dame probably could have scored more points had there not been certain penalties called. So I thought we played well. We were the better team. I think that became clear as the game went on. But what surprised you, or what really excited you by the performance that we saw last night?
It was the push up front. Again, just kind of going back to that offensive line. Yeah, I mean, there were the chunk plays. I mean, now one thing, and Jadarian Price, he had that phenomenal run, the 47-yard touchdown run. But also worth noting with Jadarian Price, he had 8 rushes total on the day for 44 yards total, but he had a 47-yard touchdown run. So that just puts things into perspective. He was largely bottled up with the exception of that. Jeremiah Love and Leonard, they were able to get a little bit more chunk plays and a bit more consistency, averaging 6.5 and 5.3 respectively. But yeah, there were certainly times, and again, against a phenomenal elite front seven and defensive line from Texas A&M, that we were stopped for loss of yardage, loss of 3, loss of 2 here and there. But the offensive line, they just kind of got their shit together and just kept pushing. They kept going forward. They kept moving forward. There was good play calling. There was a good mix of run and pass. There was a few RPOs here and there that, again, just kind of keeps the defense on their heels, keeps those defensive ends from crashing down, and gives you a little bit of extra help when you have that mobile QB. So the fact that the offensive line, despite all of the challenges, despite a lot of mistakes, penalties, despite letting up, it can be demoralizing where you're trying to block your ass off against these unbelievable behemoths on the other side, and you lose 3-4 yards from just a broken assignment, and then you just hop right back into the next huddle. You get hop right back on the horse, and then you move the sticks. And yeah, so I just keep harping on that offensive line and how well they played, kind of given the scenario. So it proved to me that maybe they're not going to be elite, but they're going to be good enough to compete, especially when it comes to teams like Georgia, Michigan, Texas. Like, we're talking playoff teams. We're talking about games played in December and January. So that's what it proved to me is maybe we're not going to be, bulldozing teams, but we're definitely going to be able to hold our own.
Yeah, I thought Mike Denbrock called a good game. I was expecting maybe a little more read option. I would have used QB power more because Leonard was having a lot of success with it. I was kind of expecting maybe some more short passing routes like slants or sticks or outs, anything just to kind of get that ball out in space. But overall, I thought they did pretty good. If it's okay with you, I kind of want to go by position group and just kind of talk about how I saw it. I haven't watched it back, and I haven't had access to an all 22, so this is just kind of off the top of my head from what I remember. But offensively, offensive line, all things considered, really well. But I think objectively, if we were just to take away the context, they didn't play great, right? They got it done when it mattered most in the second half, and I love that. That is a great battler's mentality. But Riley Leonard struggled in large part because of the offensive line. They let a lot of those rushes get through. We couldn't get a push for the longest time in the run game. But when it mattered, they got it done. So with the offensive line, I'm just keep developing. I'm not worried about them. In fact, if anything, I'm quite encouraged based on all the situational information we have, right? Given the context of the game, I'm pretty happy with it. But there's room for improvement. And kind of before I keep going, I just want to say as well, Notre Dame cemented to me that they're a top 10, maybe top 5 team. I think they're in the country. But if I'm being critical, I didn't see a national champion last night. Now, it's early. And part of that is because we watched Georgia just destroy Clemson beyond belief. And that's kind of the standard. So we have time to get there. So that's kind of why I'm holding them to this standard is like, I know they're a top 5 team after last night, but we need to win a championship. So the offensive line, just keep getting better. At the end of the season, I think they'll have a caliber of an offensive line that could win a title. Quarterback play, I've seen a lot of opinions on this, like a wide variety of them. I think Leonard got better as the game settled in. He's such a baller. How many third downs did he extend with his legs to either get a first down or get a short? He's great in the run game. I thought a lot of when he had clean opportunities to pass, he looked good. There was some where he short-armed it, didn't quite get it out in time. Room for improvement. So with Leonard, it was good enough for me to give him a pass, but I need to see more explosiveness from this offense and from him as well moving forward. So that's just something to look at. But I thought Leonard played all right, especially for the game. And if it wasn't for his heroics or his efforts in the second half, this game might go differently. So, kudos to Leonard, but, we need to see more. We need to see more accuracy. We just need to see a more explosive offense. Wide receivers, not a fan of the blocking on the screens that we got blown up so many times on that. There's something to work there. I haven't seen the all-22, so I don't know how open guys were, but they were open when they needed to be. We were able to make plays. We were able to move the ball downfield. I don't think we took deep shots. I think it was because of the offensive line. I don't think it was a receiver thing. We'll see, but I'd like to get a little more juice out of them. If you looked at the stats, the highest receiver yard, I think, was 63 yards from Bo Collins. No touchdowns. Obviously, we're playing a great team. Obviously, we have offensive line concerns. But I'd like to see a little more just from we know how good this group can be. So I'm being a little harsh here, for sure. Tight ends I thought were good. Running backs, they struggled, but largely offensive line, and they broke loose when they needed to win the game. So that's the offense. Offense, we need to see more juice, so I'm putting like a TBD on it because I need to see it get better before I can give them a national championship kind of hype.
Yeah, and before you move on to the defense, I guess the counterpoint that I would make just in regards to some encouragement, there were times I was frustrated. I saw, there was a single high safety because they were pushing that extra safety into the box and kind of just daring us to go deep. We had one-on-one guys on the outside, like there was Bo Collins and JT were both one-on-one up top. I would have wished for a go route in those circumstances, sure, but also. In a manner of speaking, I think Riley Leonard and by extension the rest of the offensive side of the ball, they did what they needed to do in this game to be successful. They didn't have to force anything and force a turnover or do anything that was stupid. They knew that they had a phenomenal defense to back them up, and that's why Marcus Freeman was able to get aggressive with those 2 fourth down calls, in his own plus side of the field, and then again at basically midfield, which he got robbed. But we can probably cover that in a little bit. But I think the defense gave the offense the confidence to just say, we're not going to be high flying and scoring a bunch of points tonight, but we can be methodical and just kind of move the rock, move the chains, and be successful in that regard. So throughout the season, absolutely, I want to see more explosiveness. I want to see us getting a bit more vertical. I don't think last night was the night to try that. I think last night was just survive in advance, get through the hardest part, and then kind of build this team moving forward. So I can definitely see the concern in that regard. But I think given the context of where we were at, the first game of the season, just win, improve over the year.
I agree with that, right? Just get it done. They did what they needed to. I'm just holding them to a championship standard right now, and that's where we need to get to at the end of the season, right? Where we have a long time to figure that out, and I think we can. I'm encouraged by the O-line. On the defense, okay, Wigman did not have a great night. He missed some throws, but part of that was Notre Dame's pressure, Notre Dame's coverage. But overall, the defense was elite. My one concern is the penalties. So I'm going to, I will allow the argument that it was a tough week 1 environment. It's, it is a pretty experienced defense. So I don't really, the offense line gets more of a pass on that. But, it's a tough environment. The hard count was really getting at our guys early in the game, although some of those calls were not offsides. That's my only concern, to be honest with you. The run game, the run defense, a little bit in the first half was getting pushed a little bit, but they really locked that down in the second half. I thought we got pressure oftentimes through blitzes. I'd like to see a little more from the edge rushers, but, that's coming. Howard Cross looked great when he was playing. The amount of times I've seen him just shed a defender, an offensive lineman, and get into the backfield was very impressive. I thought the linebackers were amazing, Steve. For our expectation, I was thrilled with it. Jalen Sneed looked like a rocket out there. I was thinking this is one of the fastest teams I've seen in Notre Dame's era, of my era at least, of watching them. He was flying through. Drake Bowen is powerful, man. He shed a block and absolutely hammered the running back. KVA throughout the game got more and more snaps. He looked really fluid. I'm really happy with the linebacker group. I thought they were even better than I expected. And how about this, Steve? We say Notre Dame is the best secondary in the country. I thought they were better than I expected. I did not expect a Don Schuler to be that good that early, and Christian Gray to be that good that early. I mean, 2 guys who had phenomenal games. Christian Gray got called on 1 PI, but he deflected 2 passes. He had huge hits. I really love his mentality. Benjamin Orson, great as always. Got a little aggressive on 1 pass that he missed, and they got a first down on. But, I mean, we're nitpicking here. So, even though we're the propaganda account, I kind of want to be as critical as possible, but at the end of the day, this is a championship defense. I firmly believe in that. The secondary is better than I thought. The linebackers are better than I thought. The D-line is what I thought. I'd like to see just a little more of them, and then no more penalties. If we get all that, man, might be the best defense in the country. And on the offensive side of the ball, as I laid out, I think if we hit those benchmarks, if we get just a little bit more from every group, which I'm willing to give them time to do, this could be a championship team. But there's still a ways to go, and I can't hide around that when Georgia utterly destroyed Clemson. It was a close first half, and they ran away with it in the second. So thank you for letting me monologue. I've been thinking about this for 24 hours. I just wanted to get it out. Take over from here.
Totally fair, yeah. So I think it's pretty consensus. Georgia, a non-Notre Dame team that would win the national championship this year would be Georgia or Ohio State, just based on talent-wise, if they're healthy, right? Yeah. Okay. He was on mute, but he nodded yes. So, yeah, I against either of those teams, do you think that Notre Dame can score 3 touchdowns?
Can I also throw Texas in the mix? I thought Texas looked pretty good as well.
Okay, yeah, throw Texas in there. Do you think we would score 3 touchdowns against either of those 3 teams?
Ohio State, yes. Texas, yes. Georgia, not sure.
Okay. I think that's basically, with this defense, precisely to your point, that's our metric.
Yeah.
on offense is, can you score 3 touchdowns in a game against those other 3 teams, elite championship contenders? And if you can, there's a chance you can win. I'm not going to guarantee it, but if you score 21 points against Georgia, there's a really good opportunity that game ends, 21-20, 21-17 as an example. I think Notre Dame's defense is so phenomenal that it doesn't look like they would be giving up more than 2 or 3 touchdowns in a particular game each year, against any opponent. And Connor Wegman, he is a very, very good quarterback. He did not look good last night, but that is a testament to the Notre Dame defense. That is a testament to led by the defensive coordinator. There were phenomenal blitzes called, including a 0 blitz on 4th and 2 to close out the game, which, pterodactyl Christian Gray does come in and break up that pass to seal it. So yeah, I mean, the offense certainly has a ways to go, but I'm going to give them some grace and some hope. Defense, holy shit, man, holy shit. This is starting to feel like, Marcus Freeman as the defensive guy, as a defensive coach, and that the recruiting has been at such a high level for such a long time, especially for about 3-4 years now, and especially at the linebacker position that we've seen, and that paid dividends. Jalen Sneed looks like a championship winning linebacker from Georgia in 21-22. He looks like one of those type of guys, like a Roquan Smith. He's phenomenal. KVA, exactly to your point, flying all over the field, dialing up pressure and blitzes, led by Jack Kaiser, the super senior leader. Like, we are in such a good spot. We have an embarrassment of riches, and just, it feels good, feels different. I'm repeating the same talking points because it's just, we've talked about this year, the 2024 year, as being the year for Marcus Freeman's team. It's year 3 for the head coach in South Bend, which we know historically has been pretty fortuitous. And, this has, between Freeman's first year on campus as a defensive coordinator, we saw a precipitous jump in the recruiting at that point. And then ever since he's been a head coach, recruiting has been getting better and better. Athletes are all over this defense, and they are phenomenal. And it really feels like they will keep us competitive with any team in the country, including Texas, Ohio State, and Georgia. We're phenomenal. Please God, 16-0. Please God, I'm begging you, because the defense makes me feel like it's genuinely possible.
Well, to your point, it does feel like Freeman's got his fingerprint all over this program now. That's like, it feels different because I think it is different. I think we're starting to see the actual Marcus Freeman Notre Dame program. Look how hyped he was before the game, man, and after the game. We didn't see that from him before. I like that. I like a guy who can wear his emotions on his sleeve when necessary, and then being cool and level-headed when necessary. And he's just out there with his guys, right? He leads from the front. He really has a great bond with the fan base, with the university. I love it. I really think there is something special cooking. And to your point last week, you said this reminded you a bit of the 2012 team. Well, both on offense and defense for me, like defensively, they were a little more bend, don't break back then, but the idea of you're not going to score touchdowns on us is very much a thing that's going to apply this year. Not that Texas A&M had the best offense in the world, but if it wasn't for penalties, they might not score more than 6 points that game. Offensively, I hope the offense is a lot better than that 2012 team. But what they did that I liked, and I tweeted it from the podcast account, it was vintage 2012. They bled like 6 minutes off the clock in the fourth quarter, right? I don't have that specific stat in my head, so pardon me if I'm overshooting that. But they took a final drive, and they're like, either we're the last ones with this ball and we're going to kick a game-winning field goal, or we're scoring a touchdown. And that's what they did. They bled it to about a minute 50, a minute 40. And methodical, first down, pass when needed to. They ran the ball when they needed to. And that reminded me a lot of that 2012 Notre Dame team. When the game was on the line, even if they were down, I remember that Purdue game, Tommy Rees comes in as the substitute quarterback because they need to move the ball. And I felt like they were going to win that game. And they just methodically bled the clock, got down to field goal position, and won on the last second field goal. this team's got a little more killer to them, I think. And if they improve, I feel really good about this team. Yeah, I don't know what to say. What a big win for this program to go on the road and beat an SEC team.
That touchdown drive where Jeremiah Love broke free for the 21-yard touchdown late in the fourth quarter. That was 8 plays, 85 yards. They started at their own 15-yard line, and it was 4 minutes and 29 seconds to completely agree with the point that you were making. You were pretty much spot on there.
And if Love doesn't score, they're bleeding out that clock where A&M doesn't get the ball. That's why once we cross the 50, I'm like, I think we've won the game.
Yeah, exactly. And then, notable, one of the last things that you said before I kind of took over there, this is the Notre Dame's first SEC road win since 2004. That was Tyrone Willingham and company
Tennessee
on the road at number 9 Tennessee. They won 17-13. So, yeah, that's mightily impressive.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. Like, I know there are criticisms. We were not playing a perfect game. I just laid out reasons why we need to get better. But you have to be happy with this, guys. Like, people were tweeting at the first half, like, at us, being like, "Oh, it's same old shit. Marcus Freeman needs to go." And I don't know, man. It was, the first half was close. I'll give A&M credit. They played really well. Their offensive line held better than I thought. Their defense was a lot better than I expected outside of the defensive line. But come on, like, they grinded out that win. They broke them down. It was a wonderful way to win the game. I think Georgia would blow out Texas A&M, though. That's kind of where I'm getting at, is we got to get better throughout the season. But I think that's the founding block. And you look at the schedule, it sets up favorably for the rest of the season to keep building. And Riley Leonard doesn't have to run as much to put himself in danger for the next few weeks, so we can focus more on the passing game and the traditional run game. And I think if we can work out those kinks and have that offensive line firing on all cylinders, this team's going to be good, man. This team is going to host a playoff game. This team's going to win a playoff game. And I just want to give a shout out to Anthony Knapp, left tackle. Sure, there was a few times he got beat, but he held his own. He really did. For his first game, all things considered, I was really happy with that performance, and I'm really hopeful that this offensive line is going to be elite, whether by the end of the year or the year after, because they are young, they're going to stay together. And I don't know about you, Steve, I didn't see much going on the right side. I thought Emil Wagner played pretty well as he's a
redshirt freshman. Absolutely.
Love it.
Yeah. They're young, they're talented, and I guess that's a perfect segue into our 4 horsemen for the week, and my horseman. We're just going to be doing one horseman each, by the way. But my horseman is just the offensive line unit as a whole, and I waxed poetic about them at the beginning. Dylan, you just did them some justice, and again, that the stats and figures: 0 sacks allowed. There were some pressures; they weren't perfect, but again, just contextualizing the circumstances and situation they were in, to come away with just a hair short of 200 yards rushing. Keeping them in the game, making the blocks when it happened. And as the game moved on, and I think this is a point that Mr. Wagon had made in a tweet from the account last night, it was like a prize fight. It was 2 heavyweights going at it, and just at the end of the game, it seems like we were able to lean up against them more. We were able to impose our will on them. Coming up huge on it, there was a 3rd down with a quick out that moved the chains. It was Leonard on a out route to Jaden Greathouse, and the coverage just picked everything up, didn't let anyone through. All we needed was a second and a half, 2 seconds for Leonard to get his man open, hit him on the out route, move those chains. I think the very next play was the 20-yard pass downfield to Bo Collins. Those kept moving those chains, and then we close out with the touchdown run by Jeremiah Love. So big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games, and that's what the offensive line did. So they are, all 5 of them, a horseman of the week.
One last thing, this team's going to have a lot of confidence moving forward, and I think we're going to see that it help them develop throughout the year, and that's what we need. So there's so many great takeaways from this game. My horseman, Adon Schuler, I mean, this is a guy Steve, if you recall, was part of that 2023 recruiting class where Peyton Bowen got all the hype, right? Don Schuler was just kind of a 4-star guy that people kind of overlooked. And Bowen ends up decommitting and all that fiasco, and people think it's a disaster. But the reports basically since he got there is that he's been a good player. He didn't get much game time last year, but we were hearing good things. And then this season, he beats out Rob Hurd, who is a highly graded PFF player, for the starting safety spot. Lots of props to him. This is, I think, a mentally tough kid. He's physically gifted. The interception was huge in changing the momentum of the game. He had lots of big tackles. This could easily go to Christian Gray as well, but I just really like the way Don Schuler played. So big shout out to him. That's my Horseman. And then P-Wagon, of course, picked James Rendell, the punter, who did pretty well in his first American game. Got some nice bounces, good punts, gave us some good field position. So that's our Horseman for the week. Let us know yours at Horseman Pod on Twitter and on Instagram. We're happy to hear from you. And let's transition to our next segment, Steve.
Absolutely. All right. Sorry, I'm just going through the show notes quickly. Okay, yeah. So, I'm just getting into a recap of week one in general. There were some, notable upsets. We talked about it last week, but it was Georgia Tech over Florida State. Clemson got the doors blown off of them by Georgia. Dylan, is there any, just going around the landscape of college football, any teams that popped out to you, any big losses that you saw? And mind you, we still have LSU and USC tonight, which unfortunately I don't know if we can get a meteor directed towards the stadium, but but that is a notable game tonight. But any of those games pop out on the score sheet?
Yes, two. I also want to bring up a big congratulations to you, Steve. You won the prediction week. You had a really good week. You took North Carolina over Minnesota. That was a really close game. We both had Georgia, which was correct, and they covered. You had Penn State, and that's where I'm going to get to. We both took Miami, and then tonight LSU, USC. So credit to you there. Penn State is one. They were better than West Virginia. The reason I picked West Virginia is because it's a week one rivalry game, and anything can happen in week one, and it was in West Virginia. So credit to Penn State. I thought they got like the Notre Dame thing where they got to win the big one. West Virginia's not the big one, but they got it done. So I want to give credit to Penn State there. Their defense looked good. They got weapons on offense. But the big one for me, and it's the game I watched the most, Miami. Miami played Florida. Florida's not as bad, I think, as their record's going to show. They're going to have a really rough record because they have the toughest schedule in the country. But, man, Miami looked good. I think we could score on them. I don't think Miami's defense is anything electric. But Cam Ward had a great game at quarterback. Restrepo, the receiver, small, shifty guy, reminds me of Hunter Renfrow a little bit. Big fan of him. He's their go-to guy. I played with him in the NCAA video game. He was my go-to guy as well. And they got Martinez at running back, who's maybe the best running back in the country. It transferred from Oregon State. So big credit to Mario Cristobal's team. They went into Florida. We all took Miami to win, but I think you and I both discussed last week that we thought it would be a tough game, like a close game that could go either way. It was not. It was an absolute blowout. So Miami, for me, is going to shoot up my top 25 rankings. Maybe they're more of a legitimate threat than we thought because we called them like a legit contender, but kind of fraudulent in the sense that they have, they have a weaker schedule, but they'll look good. They might just be good, and the ACC is wide open right now, so I want to give Miami their credit. They look good. They surprised me. Michigan looked like they had a rough game. It was going on the same time as ours, so I didn't really watch it all. But they seem to have a rough one. Ohio State struggled early. It's just kind of week one stuff. I'm not reading too much into it. But yeah, those the games I want to talk about for sure. Clemson, Georgia, Miami, Florida, and then a shout out to Penn State. So I thought those were the three best teams this week, including us. And then, we're looking forward to our week 2 predictions.
Yeah. So Michigan at home against Fresno State only had 269 yards of total offense. The kid Warren is their quarterback that ended up winning the starting job over Alex Orji. So that's I don't know if I said that last name incorrectly. Sorry, whatever. Uh, but yeah, they were. This game was 16-10 until about 6 minutes left in the game. Then Michigan scored, and then on the corresponding possession, they had a pick six with who else but Will Johnson. But no, Michigan, they are struggling. I don't know. I think they are paper Wolverines this year, and hopefully they go 1-11 because that would just be fantastic. Miami's definitely better than I expected. I might upgrade them to probably going 11-1 rather than 10-2. But so they're definitely in contention. I think there's a really good chance that I expected Clemson to come out of the ACC. I think right now, the scales are tipping in Miami's favor. Penn State, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they're real or if they're legit. I still pencil them in to be probably 10-2, 9-3. So who kind of knows? I just still feel like I don't trust Drew Aller. Maybe Drew Aller next year is going to be the guy. I think he's just still a little bit too green. Other notables. Vanderbilt, Clark Lay, upset at home against Virginia Tech.
Overtime.
Yep. So very happy for him. Congratulations. Other teams that would have popped out. Quick little look. I don't know. That looks to be pretty much it. And then obviously Georgia continues to be an absolute wagon, but they did struggle in the first half. And the fact that they struggled in the first half against a very, very good, a phenomenal actually defense with Clemson. The second half is a bit of a different story, but again, that's what I'm going to harp on. That's what I'm going to focus on. Is that Georgia looks like they can be slowed down, and
yep.
I think that game it looks a whole lot more different if Clemson has a remotely competent offense. But alas, their quarterback, Cade Klubnik, I think he just stinks, man. So I think if Georgia plays a more competent offense on the other side of the ball, and if there's a great defense that goes up against them, basically describing Notre Dame right now, I think Georgia's definitely the number one team in the country, and they're definitely the favorite. But I don't think that they are 2012 Alabama, where they're completely untouchable. Like there's some chinks in the armor, so to speak, and I think that we could get to them.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm not going to drop Clemson too much from my 25, to be honest, even though they ended up getting blown out. I just think Georgia's that good. I think Clemson's still a good team. I'm with you on the offense. That's their problem. But that offense is good enough to beat most teams in the country with their defense. But yeah, I think that's spot on. I think your assessment there is great. Do you want to head into week 2 here? And our first game, which will be a Thursday night game, I think, or perhaps Friday, the BYU Cougars and the SMU Mustangs.
Yep, this is in Dallas. SMU is coming out as 11.5-point favorites at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take SMU, but I'm taking BYU to cover. I don't like that spread.
That is the exact same thing that I'm doing. I expect SMU to win, but by less than 11.5 points. So I'm going to go with BYU on the gambling pick.
Perfect.
Up next, we have Texas heading to the Big House to face off against Michigan. Texas opens up as 6.5-point favorites on the road.
I think that line is going to move a lot this week. So it's hard to make a line pick right now just because I think it's going to move. I'm taking Texas to win. They looked great. Michigan didn't. But it's the Big House, and Michigan's got a very talented defense. I kind of want to hedge here and wait for the line to be better before I say Michigan covers. But even at 6.5, I think I'll take Michigan to cover. I think it'll be a close game, but I do see Texas winning. Hopefully, I would feel better if the line was like 10.5. But
this game is at 12 o'clock noon, by the way.
Yes, but it is a hyped game. So even though it's not prime time, I still expect the crowd to be a factor. But yeah, I'll take Texas, but I'll take Michigan on the spread.
Okay. I'm Opposite. I think Texas blows them out. I think Texas probably wins by 14-17. Michigan's defense might still be pretty good, but I think they're definitely a step back from last year, and their offense looks to be pretty abysmal. So Texas is definitely a top 4 team in the country. So I'm going to give them the nod and the
Yep,
points.
that's fair.
Now next up we have a fun one. It's a rivalry in state. It's Iowa State at Iowa. They're playing in Kinnick Stadium, and at home the Iowa Hawkeyes are only favored by 2.5 points.
Yeah, they scored 40 last week, and I know a lot of it came late, but I think that's a good sign. They're at home. It is a rivalry game. I could see it going either way. I'm going to take Iowa and the points. I'll take them to cover 2.5. But you could talk me out of it. I'm not that sold on either team.
I'm with you. I'm also taking Iowa and the points. If that was 3.5, then I might take Iowa State. But
Yeah.
This Iowa team, I've projected them to go 6-6 this year. I think they're probably gonna win some of these easy games early, but as they get into the meat and potatoes of their schedule, I don't think that offense really holds up, and I don't know how much longer they can continue to be this type of a program. And at least a successful one, winning 10 plus games a season, just the way that they are set up. So I'll take them in this particular one. But if they win by 3 points, I absolutely would not be surprised.
Yeah.
Then we have Tennessee playing in North Carolina against NC State. This is not at Finley Field. This is at Bank of America Stadium?
Yeah, not Carter Finley. It's Bank of America. I don't know if that means it's a neutral site in the sense that tickets are allocated evenly. I'm going to guess NC State is the home team. They're just playing it in a bigger venue. But I could be wrong on that, and I probably am. But either way, the game is in North Carolina. Steve, I'm taking an upset here. I think North Carolina State is going to win this game. I know Tennessee looked great. Nico Emileyev was great last week, but they were playing Chattanooga, maybe. NC State is always got a good defensive line. I think they're going to wreak havoc. I think they're an underrated team. I think they have a chance to win the ACC, and they're kind of at home. So I'm going to take NC State and the points.
I agree with everything that you said in regards to NC State being a team on the ascendancy. I could see them winning 9 to 10 games this year. Unfortunately, this won't be one of them, and that's it's just strictly a compliment to Tennessee. I think the Volunteers are probably a top 8 team in the country. I project them to go maybe 11-1. So I just think that Nico is a phenomenal quarterback, even just as a true sophomore. And I'll take the Vols and the spread -7.
Okay.
And then finishing up, we have Colorado on the road at Nebraska. Nebraska at home is favored by 6.5 points against Dion's crew. Dylan, take us away.
Well, this is a rivalry game. That's the first thing. And I believe Colorado beat them last year at home. Do you mind looking that up for me while I do my thing? I think Colorado won that game. So they can win. However, I think a reckoning is coming. I kind of liked North Dakota State to beat Colorado last week. I feel like I was in the minority there, and they almost did it. I don't think Colorado's good. I think it's a mess of a program. I think the inner workings would probably shock us at how it's run. I believe in Matt Rule. I think Nebraska is on the ascendancy. I don't think they're necessarily going to compete for the Big Ten this year. I like Dylan Raiola, but he's a freshman. But it's at home. It's a rivalry game. I like the coaching better. I like the talent better. Give me the Cornhuskers. What's the line again?
Nebraska 6.5.
Yeah, I'll take them to cover Nebraska and the points.
I basically endorse and agree with everything that you just said. Some perspective for last year, the game was played in Colorado. Colorado won 36-14. It's a whole new season. Colorado seems dysfunctional, man. Just stop fucking talking. Just stop talking. Just let your play on the field do the talking for you. Stop running your mouth, Dion and company. Oh my God, you are putting such a target on your back. You're making yourselves unlikable. I hope Nebraska wins by 50.
Yep, and I'm here for Nebraska to come back into college football and be a relevant program again. I like the Blue Bloods. Nebraska fans have been cool in my experience, so I'm also rooting for them. I don't hate Dion as much as like P Wagon does. I just don't think it's a well-run ship over there, and I think the wheels are going to come off.
Fair enough. That does it for all of our picks this week, and we will be posting a graphic on social medias, Instagram and Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it these days. And we'll also include P Wagons as well. So that way you guys can check our picks, hopefully ride with us and make a little bit of money. Moving on to the mailbag, sir.
Yep, absolutely. First one from Dr. Abby, friend of the show. 3 quick hitters here, Steve. Number 1, why don't we think James Rendell was as electric as he was supposed to be? Seems he had the field/air space on a few. Was it nerves? P-Wagon might fight you over that. I think early in the game he was trying to get the ball out quick. So those first few punts I think were a little more rushed. I thought he got better as the game went on. I know he's got a big cannon. But I would say, yeah, I think nerves is probably the source of any kind of imperfection.
Yeah, I was pretty upset about the first punt, and then Wagon kind of put it into perspective. It's like, dude, you're backed up on your goal line. This is your first ever punt.
Just get it out.
Ever, yeah. So kind of just get it out, and he put some kind of top spin on it, so it rolled past midfield. So it was the first punt, even though it looked not good, it ended up being better than what you would expect. And Wagon did kind of add a bit more, kind of perspective that he played a heck of a lot better than you would think. So I guess in his advanced punting analytics, Rendell is a dude.
I love it. All right, question 2. How excited are you for friend of the podcast, Drake Bowen, to have 4 tackles?
Extremely excited, and also just going back to your horseman of the week, Adon Schuler. Drake, on our podcast interview when we had it with him last year, Drake did say that Adon was going to be a dude. He was going to be, he was really showing up in practice. So Drake gave us that insight early on. Seems like a staple of the middle of this defense. Really excited for his future, man. Just really going to appreciate the years that we have left with him, because I would anticipate he probably leaves Notre Dame early for the draft, because his stock is rising.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's got all the tools. I mean, he's powerful, man. That the one block he shedded and just annihilated the running back was impressive. I think with him, it's just confidence and more experience, right? Like last year, you could see the skills, but I think there may have been a little discomfort, or you're a freshman playing at Notre Dame. He looked really good tonight, and I think as the season goes on and as he gets more game time, he's just going to be an absolute force. And the fact that you can rotate him in with Kingston Viliamu-Asa, and then of course Jack Kaiser, I love that. I love that depth. Question 3 from Abby: why doesn't the podcast have a coffee sponsor yet?
At the risk of being self-serving, and thank you, Abby, for teeing me up. So I am a diehard golfer, I think, as people are quite aware of. I also am obsessed with coffee. You could call it addicted, if you consider caffeine a drug. So being the businessman that I am, I combined 2 loves of my life and created a coffee company. It's called First Tee Coffee Company, TEE, like you're heading to the first tee of a golf course. It's a golf lifestyle coffee brand. Thank you for letting me plug that shamelessly and for free. So yeah, if you love golf, if you love phenomenal, gourmet, fresh roasted, small batch coffee, brewed right here in or roasted right here in Charleston, South Carolina, head over to firstteecoffee.com. If you use playoffs right now, that's actually, I think it's going to get you 20% off, just in honor of the FedEx Cup playoffs, and hopefully Scotty Scheffler closes this one out.
I love it. I love it, Steve. Wishing you the best with your coffee business.
Thank you.
Moving on, we got Eric McCormick with 3 questions as well, so we'll rapid fire these. 1, what internal elements could derail this year?
Okay, wow. That's all right. Hard hitting questions. Yeah, I mean, the obvious is to point to the offensive line just because of the inexperience. Only 6 starts heading into last night combined. Um, but I'm actually gonna switch it up a little bit and go with the quarterback position. Riley Leonard is a mobile QB. They are going to run him, as we saw last year against Notre Dame. Riley Leonard did, I think, and ultimately break his ankle. So he's a senior quarterback. He has NFL draft stock. I believe in Riley Leonard. I think he's going to have a really good season. Knock on as much wood as humanly possible that he stays healthy. If he, for one reason or another, does get injured, I think that we would still probably win all of our regular season games, but when you're talking about making a late January run, that would certainly put us in jeopardy.
Yeah, I'd say injuries is the big thing. If the undisciplined penalties continue, that would be another thing. So we got to see that get cleaned up. But yeah, losing focus would be maybe another one, right? If you go against Georgia Tech or Louisville, just kind of overlooking the game, that could go poorly. But internally, I think Freeman's got a good ship here, so it's just going to be injuries that I'd be concerned about. His second question: are all game times set? I don't know. I don't think you know, Steve. Um, Unless you
Let
do, I
me
mean,
check. Nope, Georgia Tech is in Atlanta is to be determined, and the same with USC the week of Thanksgiving. I imagine
that's right.
Thanksgiving week USC it has to be a primetime game.
You would think,
Um,
but so I agree with you. But Oregon Washington is that week as well, and we don't know if NBC or CBS has the priority to pick because Fox is taking Michigan Ohio State. So it's
okay.
if it's NBC's priority and they want Notre Dame USC, it'll be prime time. But if CBS takes it or if NBC picks the other one, then it would be at 3:30.
Thank you for giving us that insight. And then, yeah, in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta on October 19th. No time yet on that Georgia Tech game. So hopefully Georgia Tech wins a bunch of games between now and then because the more primetime games, the better, in my opinion.
Yep. And his third one, what is an ideal schedule? I mean, we could talk about that forever. I posted one yesterday, so I'll just run through mine off the top of my head. It includes Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, Stanford, BC, Pitt, Navy, Miami, USC. I want that. That's an ideal schedule with me, and you still have 3 open spots to do. If you want to do another G5 team, I do like the idea of playing Army because they're a rival. I like rotating traditional teams, Georgia Tech, Northwestern, and I like the big games, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia. So my
Mhm.
schedule would look something like that. But I want Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue every September. To me, that's just the way it should be. But that's because I also grew up when those games were being played. So
I was about to say those were my formative years of becoming a fan, and it was those games in particular that were just seemingly the most fun. What I will say with did you said Miami, right?
I think Miami should be annual.
I don't know about annual because the only other alternative to that I would offer up is that Florida State and Miami. If we do home and homes, but then every like 4 years. So at home this year against Miami, on the road against Miami next year, then at home Florida State, on the road at Florida State. So kind of a mixed matching those, and then again still opening up the schedule for those other kind of big games that you can pop in. That
Yep.
would be my only alternative offering, just because I love playing Florida State as well.
Yeah, and you could do that with Pitt and BC as well. You could rotate those two. But yeah, I like rivals. Is kind of what I'm getting at. I want to play the rivals because that's what Notre Dame is. We don't have a conference. Our conference members, our brother institutions, are our rivals, right? Like USC, Stanford, Navy. Like that's so I want to play those guys more often. But great question, and shoot your guys' ideal schedule at Horseman Pod on Twitter. Last one here, Steve. Irish Xavier asks, how much improvement can we expect from Denbrock and the offense throughout the year? And can it get to a point where we can put numbers on the heavy favorites in the later rounds, i.e. Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon?
I'm more optimistic this year than I think any year in my life, and I used to be so much more pessimistic with this program in the last I think since 2016-17 is when I really started to kind of make a shift because I saw how much better we were getting. and I'm perpetually optimistic this year. I think that Riley Leonard does have the tools. Is he the most accurate passer? No. But is he have the opportunity to be a phenomenal college quarterback and even pro quarterback? I think yes. And Denbrock is certainly going to be able to scheme him. Our next 3 games before we play Louisville, Louisville is going to be a great test for us on September 28th. But we have a home game against Northern Illinois. We're on the road at Purdue, which will be a bit of a tester, but we should win. And then we're at home against Miami of Ohio. These are 3 crucial weeks where we can really see the offensive line gel, come together, make sure that they're going to play well, give the quarterback some time and some space in order to develop, connect with these wide receivers, push the ball downfield, get a little bit more vertical. I think that genuinely, I'm not going to have the delusion that Riley Leonard is going to win the Heisman, but I think that he can probably be a top 15 quarterback in college football this year. And if we have a top 15 quarterback at Notre Dame with this defense, then I don't see a reason why we cannot be competing with Texas, Georgia, Ohio State. It's definitely going to be there. So the next 3 weeks are very formative, but I am very high on them.
Yeah, I think the answer depends on the O-line and the QB. If they gel and they develop and the QB's having a good season, yes, I think they can beat those teams. Georgia with an asterisk, but I definitely think they could beat Ohio State and Oregon and Texas. But that depends on, and that's a big if, right? The offensive line has to get better, but I think it will. The QB has to have a better performance than he did against A&M, even though he played well enough to win the game and he balled. I love that, but I need to see more from Leonard. I wouldn't rule out a Heisman run if things get better. I don't think it's going to happen, but he's got the talent, and I think that's why I have such high hopes for him. So I think the Denbrock offense can get a lot better and will as time goes on. It just depends how much better, I think, is how far this team will go. So that wraps up the mailbag segment of the episode. Thank you guys for your questions, and keep sending them our way. We're happy to read them in what limited time we have.
Yep, absolutely. So that's going to lead us into closing up shop here with the preview against Northern Illinois. This game is at 3:30 p.m. this upcoming weekend in South Bend. Game time temperature as of right now looks like there's a small chance of rain, but not much. I think I saw 25% chance. So they're expecting it to probably clear up. I think mid 60s, about 65 degrees. So weather shouldn't be too big of an issue. Northern Illinois went 6-6 in the regular season last year and then won their bowl game. Their QB is he's a redshirted junior, so already on campus for 4 years. Ethan Hampton, this is his first year as a starter. In terms of the line, Notre Dame Fighting Irish are favored by 30 points, and the over-under is 46 and a half.
Wow. That is a high spread and a low over-under, if you're asking me. But yeah, I look, I'm not going to pretend I know anything about Northern Illinois other than what you just said, because I did a little research on the record. This is a game Notre Dame's got to win, and they got to blow them out. Good teams win, great teams cover, and that's what we need to see this week. We need to see more gelling on the offensive line. We need to see more offensive explosiveness, and we just need the defense to do what it's doing. So it's not going to be an in-depth preview from me. I know how I feel this game's going to go. I think there's going to be a lot of excitement and buzz at Notre Dame Stadium, and hopefully that prevents any kind of overlooking or lack of focus this week. I think that's the only real problem. Even if we have injuries, we should win this game by a lot. No disrespect to NIU. It's just, it's a revenge tour, right? We're going 16-0 and you happen to be in the way. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm hoping we don't have negative things to say next week. I really hope the penalties clear up. I hope the offensive line keeps to gel, and I hope we see a little more offensively.
And let's open up the playbook, Denbrock, since you're listening. We know you are. First home game. Let's show the crowd a little bit of razzle dazzle. Let them know exactly how talented we are in the run game, in the quarterback run game, and then let's air this some bitch out. I have written down my score. Dylan, last week we were creepily once again close to one another in prediction, and then also creepily close in regards to the actual final outcome. So one more time, the line is set at Notre Dame expected to win by 30 points, and the over/under was 42 or 45 or something like that. So I have my score. Do you have yours?
I do. I wrote mine down just a few minutes ago. I hope I'm not too optimistic with this, but I have the Irish winning 42-6.
45-10.
Why do we always do this? This is ridiculous.
But that's the thing, is just we know ball. We know this Notre Dame team, and I think the fact that you and I have been on the same page for quite a bit of time, and we've been more right than we have been wrong, I think is a great indicator of it's a leading indicator for this program. Notre Dame, Fighting Irish, they are in a really good spot. Marcus Freeman, forever. You would go to the ends of the earth for him. He's phenomenal. Both of us are expecting a big win. Not much else to think about it. Don't think too much. It's NIU. I don't have any additional closing thoughts other than, man, it was good to win a big game, especially on the road. Something that didn't happen historically, but it looks to be the new trend of Marcus Freeman's Fighting Irish. Dylan, closing thoughts, and see us out, pal.
Well, I think the last time we won a big road game against a big-time opponent was Oklahoma in 2012. And Steve, do you remember what happened in 2012?
We played for a national championship.
We played for a national championship. And I had posted today that Marcus Freeman reminds me a lot of Jurgen Klopp, the manager, the football manager, former, in the sense that he bonds with the place. He motivates his individuals. People will die for him out there, and we are willing to go to the depths of hell for him. And in his third full season, he won the Champions League at Liverpool. Third season at Notre Dame, 1988. Lou Holtz wins the national championship. I don't mean to be a conspiracy theorist, but I think this could be the year if things go right. And I think that we kicked off the season as good as we could possibly have hoped for. And let's keep that momentum going. So thank you guys for listening this week. Follow us at Horsemen Pod. Give us a nice 5-star review. We're happy to interact with you guys. I mean, we do this not for the money. We do this for a nice hobby and the social interactions we get from you guys. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week, and go Irish.
Go Irish.